Welcome to STEAM Kids Virtual Classroom. I'm Hannah Fitzsimmons from Colorado Model Railroad Museum, and with me I've got Peter Romero, local science geek extraordinaire. Is that the title you go
That's
by?
What they've been calling me.
All right. So today we are going to talk about terrestrial planets, kind of going off of the last conversation you and Michelle had.
Mm-hmm.
So these planets are different, obviously, than the gaseous planets. What kind of makes them different?
Yeah, well, these are the inner planets of our solar system. So we've got, in order from closest to the sun to furthest, we've got Mercury, Venus, Earth, and Mars. We've already done a lot of talking about Mars, and you live on the Earth, so we don't need to talk about it a whole lot.
Too much,
they're smaller. They are rocky. They don't have gigantic gaseous atmospheres, and they just tend to be, it's kind of like what the cores of the outer planets would be like if you just stripped all the gas off of them.
Okay, so I know obviously we can live on Earth, and they're talking about looking about like life on Mars. But what about those two planets? Is there any chance
Probably
people
not.
could ever?
Yeah, Mercury is the closest planet to the sun, and it's really, both of these planets are really hot.
Okay.
So
that
it's,
makes sense. Yeah.
Actually, they're pretty inhospitable places.
All right. Cool.
Mercury, Mercury's like 800 degrees
Okay.
on the sun-facing side, and then around the backside in the shadow, it's like 190 below. No, 290 below.
Oh wow. So no
So
one's
you
living
really-
there.
You really couldn't, and it doesn't trap the heat because it has no atmosphere. Venus has a very thick atmosphere, so it's always it's actually the hottest planet in the solar system. Almost 900 degrees
Wow.
all the time.
Okay.
And the atmospheric pressure is about 93 times as much as Earth.
Wow.
So you'd be crushed.
All right. So Earth it is for us right now. Okay. And then I know that there's, we've got mountains here, and on Mars there's mountains and rocks and everything. Have they found anything like that on either of those other two
I have
planets?
heard that Venus has mountains, it has volcanoes. Venus is like one of the most horrible places in the solar system because it's so hot. It's volcanic. The atmosphere, it's got clouds because it's got this thick atmosphere. But the clouds are made of sulfuric acid.
Oh.
So it's
That
pretty
sounds-
horrible.
Yeah,
It has lightning, and I think the snow, since it's so hot, the snow is made out of lead sulfide.
Wow.
Snowing out of the clouds. It's kind of just
Awful.
bad place to vacation.
All right. So no vacations to Venus coming up. All right. Well, and then I know too, we've got our moon. Do any of these other planets have?
Mars has 2 small moons.
Okay.
They're too small to be spherical. They're actually like little irregular rocks.
Oh, okay.
Venus and Mercury don't have any moons at all.
Oh, wow. So, okay.
Yeah, but Venus is cool because it's the third brightest object in the sky, past the sun and the moon.
Oh, wow.
And
I
so
did not know
Venus is really nice when it's out in the evening or the morning. However, right now it's not visible. It probably won't be visible until later this summer or fall.
Oh, okay. All right. So it's something you can look for in the night sky, maybe. So we have some rocks here, I guess, that they're not actual space rocks, but they're like space rocks.
And you have these too in your kits.
Yes. And they come with little booklets that kind of talk you through it, but I thought we would just talk about them just a little bit to just some fun facts about them. So right here, we'll just start with impactite, which is this one right here. So impactite is formed from the impact site of a crater. So when something, an asteroid or something hits, the heat from the crater creates that rock, and it forms from other rocks, minerals, and it's just kind of made up of a lot of different things. So it's something that you could definitely find. I mean, you find it on Earth. So who knows? Maybe there'd be one in your backyard.
Interesting.
Yeah. And then we've got Breccia, which actually, that one is the type of rock that was found on the moon by Apollo 16. And they brought back a sample that was actually dated 3.9 billion years old.
Wow,
So,
that's interesting.
so it's definitely one of those that you could find on Earth, but it's very common on the lunar highlands. And then we've got Tektite over here, and Tektite can actually be found on Earth and the moon and Mars. And usually it's composed of kind of black or green and gray, like just natural glass, and it's usually ejected during meteorite impacts. So they kind of all have sort of something in common. Usually there's an impact involved
Makes
from
sense.
when they're being formed. And then, I don't know if you looked at the peridot, but there are kind of some crystals on there.
I have looked at it. This is sometimes used as a gemstone if you have a larger piece of it, because if you can see it all, it's a little bit green. And if you have larger crystals, it can be pretty.
Yeah, and the green and yellow color is actually created by the iron that's in there. So the amount of color, it's, more iron, more color.
Yeah, and where do you find this one?
That one, it's usually just found, I think, on Earth. I don't know so far about I couldn't find any other planets it's found on, but it usually comes with meteorites, basically.
Gotcha.
So anywhere that a meteorite could strike,
nice,
it could come from. And then graphite is actually going to be probably the most common one that everyone knows about, because they can find it in pencils. You probably have used it
Graphite's
recently.
a form of carbon.
Yeah. And actually, if you want to test it, you can.
Yeah.
Even write with graphite.
This is an interesting chunk. Look at how square it is.
Yeah.
So let's see if it writes. Oh, it sure does.
It does, yeah. So
I can spell
there you
graphite.
go. It might
That's
be
neat.
hard to actually write with that, but it's exactly that. And it's actually formed just from other organic materials, so be a metamorphic rock.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
And so these are just kind of, I guess you can see the common thread here is that they all kind of come from impacts of some sort, and you can find them all on Earth, but it's probably hard to find.
Yeah.
But why
all
not
over
search?
these inner planets. I think sometimes we neglect the inner planets because they're more similar to Earth.
Yeah. So we think we just.
But they are interesting. We have
are.
sent a probe to Venus, and it's interesting. Mercury. I was reading about this. Mercury is the orbit of Mercury helped us to verify that the theory of general relativity was correct.
Wow. How exactly did they do that?
It's kind of complicated, but basically what happened was like in the 1600s, Johannes Kepler came up with equations to tell us how to predict the motions of the planets.
Oh, okay.
And they worked really well, except for Mercury.
Oh.
Whenever we'd use those equations to try and figure out where we'd see Mercury in the sky, they were always just a little bit off from where it actually was.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah, and it wasn't until Einstein came out in 1905 with the theory of general relativity that said that space-time curves in the presence of a large gravitational field.
Oh, wow.
Since Mercury is so close to the sun, its orbit is perturbed a little bit by the relativistic effects of the sun's gravity. And so it's not. So as soon as they factored that in, they were able to predict its position with high accuracy.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, so Mercury. Who knew?
Yeah, it's kind of a strange thing, but it's
a cool planet. Well, thanks for joining us today for STEAM Kids Virtual Classroom. Hope you enjoyed learning about the terrestrial planets, and hope you enjoy learning about the different rocks in your kit, and maybe you'll find one in your own backyard. You never know.
Enjoy taking a look at those, and next week we'll be talking about the moon.